This video is brought to you by hoodbeast.com. Design your own custom hoodies. hoodbeast.com.
Throughout the years, the NBA has become a highly regulated, multi-billion-dollar industry. In fact, both the NBA and basketball have become so popular that they are known worldwide. As we all know by now, just like anything else in the world, there are rules. Same thing goes for basketball. Most NBA fans know the majority of the general rules in the league. Personal fouls, traveling, double dribble, these rules are extremely familiar to us, so they've become a part of our subconscious mind as we watch NBA games. And sure, there are hardcore fans out there who watch almost every NBA game and seem to know nearly everything about the players, the coaches, the team's history, and much more. But even some of the most passionate fans are not familiar with all the rules of basketball. Back in 1892, when Dr. James Naismith invented the sport, he designed just 13 rules for the amateur participants to follow. Now the official international rules have roughly 50 articles and take up 36 pages. And as the game has evolved, so have the rules. For all of the NBA rules that are common knowledge, there are also quite a few that even hardcore fans struggle to remember at times. And you can't really blame them, considering these rules are quite rare to begin with. As a matter of fact, you might only see some of these involved in an NBA game about once a season if you're lucky. Some are slightly weird but still make sense, while others are just completely ridiculous. With all that being said, today we take a look at the weirdest NBA rules you probably didn't know existed. Welcome to NBA Insider.
Westbrook shows from the basketball, goes to the rim!
Before we begin, I would like to give a huge shout out to SeatGeek for sponsoring this video. For those of you who don't know what SeatGeek is, it's basically the smartest way to buy and sell tickets to live events. You can use SeatGeek to find tickets to concerts, Broadway, comedy shows, and even the NBA Finals. SeatGeek searches for tickets all over the web, which means that you'll see far more results and find better deals than if you tried searching on your own, saving you both time and money. To top it off, you guys can use my promo code INSIDER17 to get $20 off your first purchase. Click the link in the description box down below to find out more. Once again, thank you to SeatGeek for sponsoring this video. Enjoy. Throughout NBA history, there have always been athletes with the size and strength to slam dunk the ball through the rim. In fact, some of the greatest NBA highlights of all time are monster dunks followed by shattered backboards raining glass on the court. However, Chuck Connors, the first NBA player to shatter a backboard, did not do so with a dunk. On November 5th, 1946, while playing for the Boston Celtics, Connors took a shot during pre-game warm-ups hitting the front of the rim. Because an arena worker had failed to place a protective piece between the rim and the backboard shattered. Ever since then, NBA backboards had become widely known for shattering during games. All-star power forward Gus Johnson of the Baltimore Bullets became famous as a backboard breaker in the NBA, shattering 3 during his career in the 1960s and early 70s. In 1970, Charlie Hentz of the ABA shattered 2 backboards in the same game. Darryl Dawkins became famous for shattering backboards and is credited for being the one person to cause the NBA to introduce breakaway rims. And don't even get me started on Shaquille O'Neal. Although all of those rim-shaking dunks sent crowds into a frenzy, it also sent shards of glass flying over the players and fans as they ducked for cover. The stunt has caused games to be cancelled or delayed, as maintenance teams would have to install a new backboard since NBA arenas carried multiple at all times. Serious injuries, expensive costs of cleanup, and replacement were other factors that were caused by the catastrophe. Overall, shattering a backboard was and still is extremely dangerous. So in the mid-90s, rather than to continue allowing players to constantly shatter the glass, the NBA decided to implement newly designed backboards in hope of making them unbreakable, and it was. In fact, in the current day and age of NBA basketball, the rim is also manufactured so that not even the weight of a piano could break the backboard or tear off the rim. Nowadays, it is extremely rare for an NBA player to break the glass anymore, especially with the new plexiglass that's been introduced. However, if by some random chance there is ever a time in the modern NBA in which a player dunks the ball with such force that they shatter the backboard, there are specific rules that pertain to that. The NBA rulebook states that any player whose contact with the basket or backboard causes the backboard to shatter or make the basket unplayable will be penalized in the following manner. For pre-game and or halftime warm-ups, no penalty will be assessed by officials. However, during the game, a non-unsportsmanlike conduct technical foul will be assessed, and under no circumstances will that player be ejected from the game. The commissioner will then review all actions and plays involved in the shattering of the backboard. Basically, shattering a backboard during a game, whether the player intended to or not, is penalized with a non-unsportsmanlike conduct technical foul and a possible fine towards the player. However, the player may not be ejected, nor shall the foul count as a player's total towards either ejection or suspension. On top of that, the dunk will no longer be counted as a basket no matter how nice it looked. On the bright side, there are two exceptions to this rule. The first is, if the player already has a technical, they will not be ejected from the game. The second is, if this incident takes place during pre-game and or halftime warm-ups, no penalty will be assessed. So in the end, I guess it's not all that bad. You may think a jump ball is a pretty simple and straightforward part of the game, but when players don't line up correctly, it gets pretty crazy. Even though the opening tip has zero effect on the outcome of a match, the league is stubborn about everything being done by the book. Did you know that in any jump ball situation, if the jumpers are lined up incorrectly and the referees take a notice of this, there is a penalty? In regards to this, Rule 2, Section 6 of the NBA rulebook clearly states that after more than 24 seconds has elapsed, the teams will continue to shoot for that basket for the remainder of that half and or overtime. If the error is discovered in the first half, teams will shoot at the proper basket as decided by the opening tap for the second half. If 24 seconds or less has elapsed, all play shall be nullified. Basically, during the jump ball, players must ensure that they are lined up on the correct side of the court facing the basket that they are shooting into. If the players are not lined up correctly when the game begins, the referee can call a foul within 24 seconds, after which the game must be restarted. But if the referee happens to miss out the player's positioning or doesn't call the foul within 24 seconds, the teams will continue to shoot for that basket for the remainder of that half. Following this, the team would then shoot at the opposite basket in the second half or overtime if there is still basketball left to be played. And if you're wondering how NBA teams and their players know which way to face at tip-off, there's a rule for that too. At the start of every game, the coach of the road team gets to decide what basket they want to shoot at. Many teams will start to shoot in the front of their own bench so that the staff can see more closely at what adjustments need to be made on offense while coaching up the defense during clutch time. Pretty interesting rules if you ask me. When it comes time for NBA players to shoot their free throws, most coaches tell their players to take their time and to really get into the zone before making the shot. Well, you have to learn to get in the zone quickly if you want to avoid a violation. Although it's rarely called, the league rule states that after the ball is placed at the disposal of a free throw shooter, his attempt shall be made within 10 seconds in such a way that the ball enters the basket or touches the ring before it is touched by another player. If the violation is by the offense, no point can be scored. The ball is then awarded out of bounds to the opposing team at the free throw line extended. Basically, the player shooting the free throw must begin their shooting motion within 10 seconds of receiving the ball at the free throw line. Failure to do so results in a violation being called and the other team receiving the ball out of bounds. Although this seems like a very simple rule, you would be surprised that some players still have a hard time following it. Some notable players that have been caught breaking this rule include Karl Malone, Dwight Howard, and most recently Giannis Antetokounmpo. Back in the day, there was a rule in the NBA books that allowed the normally 5-man lineup to have 6 players on at once. The trick? Being sneaky. Of course, teams had to be very secret about it and would only send the 6th man on the court if the referee was not paying attention. With those 6 men on the court, the teams would then score, and if the referees didn't notice the 6th man before the team scored, the points would count. There have been many occasions in which more than 5 players were on a court at once, including the Philadelphia 76ers in 2015 and the San Antonio Spurs in 2014. Despite this, there is still a specific rule that applies to this, especially if the referee does take notice of the additional player on the court. Section 6, Article E of the NBA rulebook states, if the ball is put into play and remains in play with one team having 6 or more players on the court, a non-unsportsmanlike technical foul will be assessed on the team with too many players. Did you know that an NBA player can foul out and still remain in a game? Normally, if a player receives his 6th foul, he will have to sit out the remainder of the game, but there is always an exception. In the rare occasion that an NBA team is reduced to just 4 players due to everybody fouling out or getting injured, Rule 3, Section 1 of the NBA rulebook states, if a player in the game receives his 6th personal foul and all substitutes have already been disqualified, said player shall remain in the game and shall be charged with a personal and team foul. A technical foul will also be assessed against the team. All personal fouls after that, including offensive fouls, shall be treated similarly. All players who have 6 or more personal fouls and remain in the game shall be treated similarly as well. Basically, the last guy who fouled out gets to stay in the game because of course the NBA rules state that a team must always have 5 players on the court, not 4. It's not that simple though. If the fouled out player commits another foul, the team will be charged with a technical foul, a personal foul, and a team foul. This rule was once used in a Warriors vs Blazers game back in April of 2010 2010 when Stephen Curry was first starting out his career. Although there were indeed other circumstances surrounding the game, the end result was the same. Simply put, a person that was fouled out was allowed to finish the game. As always, if you enjoyed this video and would like to see more content like this, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Don't forget to follow me on social media and turn on your post notifications to be notified when I upload. If you have any recommendations for future videos such as interesting stories or topics like this, please feel free to leave them in the comment section down below. As always, thanks for watching NBA Insider.